Happy Future Friday. Veronica, I'm so glad to have you here. I know you're calling in from Portugal, and you've been working on some really interesting work around the freelance economy and something called GeekPay. Plus, you have just such an amazing background that I can't wait to dive into. We got in touch as you are one of also like the near Web3 women change makers, which is super exciting. And I can't wait to dive into all of the work that you've been doing, especially around GeekPay. So if you kick us off, just how did you get into this space? What are you working on now? I'd love to hear the journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Val, for inviting for the conversation. I'm really inspired of such kind of conversation, especially in terms of female stuff and other things. Thank you so much once again. Yeah, so I've entered blockchain wonderful world for about 2 years ago. The main reason for that was a curiosity about the technology, about everything, what is happening in here, because for the whole my career, I've been working with tech business for about 15 years already. And blockchain always took like a very mysterious part of it, especially for the past 10 years. I would never try to like take more into details. But then I found out that it is a huge wave of new projects, new products, new even business domains. And I decided to dive in. And since then, I'm very, very inside of this, like the whole area over there. Yeah. And then we started the company. First, we started with the investment side. Since I'm also a partner in a VC fund, and we started investing in a couple of blockchain projects. And then I understood that probably it's time for me to start my own company. So yeah, that was the beginning.
You've been a multi-time entrepreneur, which I think is so fascinating, from the co-founder of WAD Insights to True, and to your point now also being a partner at SID Ventures. So tell us a little bit about that journey of like the sort of more traditional founder world, which also was like this AI mobile app for CrossFit, which is crazy. And then the idea of like True as a media company, media tech company. It's been like so much diversity. How have you followed your curiosities and, decided where to stake your, mark? And more importantly, like why now Web3, especially in a world of, a lot of criticism of whether it's real, if there's use cases. Why did you choose, that as the next future thing that you wanted to prioritize?
Okay, let me start with the diversity. So I've been connected to tech business in Ukraine, and for the past decade, I think tech business in Ukraine started booming a lot because of many new people came into the space, and a lot of new exciting projects and new exciting startups came out. And it was like a huge wave of new opportunities for everybody. So I've been in tech in a service and consulting business for 10 years. And then I started meeting a lot of new entrepreneurs who started their own companies with their own products. And I was so excited and inspired by them. Then I thought, okay, maybe I should also think about my own venture, because it's like an opportunity. I'm like a 30 years old lady. I know a little bit how to work with the corporate clients. Maybe it's time for me to start my own company. And this is where my first project was born. It was a True, and it was about media, and actually in terms of HR, because when you work with a lot of companies, you probably would like to understand the top management, to understand what is the philosophy of the company, and that the idea of the project was to describe that. Then I met very inspiring ladies who were running a small company, WAD Insights. This is like AI project for CrossFit athletes and users. And it was also very exciting because CrossFit like used to be kind of a scary fitness for somebody, but also very competitive and very challenging one. And we started building the company connected with the artificial intelligence in terms of metrics and what kind of results in terms of health you can get with this kind of sport. And then eventually I came across the blockchain, and the diversity was always about curiosity and about the opportunities you can find on the market. Regarding blockchain space and crypto and everything connected with that, I have a strong belief that the whole world is currently in the middle of revolution of financial world. Like even if crypto used to be considered as one of the gray space or kind of a scam space or like a dangerous space. Now we see more and more businesses, like strong businesses, come into this space, like JP Morgan and many others, Bank of America and other ones, like a strong and well-known businesses, financial business are moving to this space. And I think this is a huge sign for everybody to accept the fact that crypto is already here, that all of us are expected to use this technology in the nearest future. And I'm not talking about like a couple of years, I think it's a couple of months. And as soon as all of us understand and accept this fact and start browsing the technology, start understanding its principles, and then feel comfortable with that, that will help all of us to actually avoid any kind of scam or bad reputation about blockchain.
I love that. And just building on your point about this financial revolution that you think is coming, what do you feel like is your hot take or your vision for the future that's really like inspiring you and sparking you? I mean, this talk is all about the future, right? What is the future that you see that you might think that others might not see yet that's coming? And maybe one other spin to that is, I'm curious about how your identity as a Ukrainian shapes what you believe is like the use case in the future.
Well, I think actually I'm kind of a bright example of the person of the future, because first of all, unfortunately, I had to move. It was not by my will. It was like because of the war in Ukraine. And I used to move to a couple of countries during 1 year. And this is actually interesting aspect of modern life. When you like couple of months, you live in one country, then you move to another one, then you change continents and other stuff. So this is my own example. I used to live for more than 30 years in Ukraine, and then I moved to like first to Hungary, then I moved to France, then I moved to Spain, and eventually I set up in Portugal. My company is incorporated in the UK. We raise money in Switzerland and other places. So it's like a multi-continental business all over the globe. And what inspired me most, that everything became so easy to take. I mean, you can incorporate company in the UK, you can set up your life in Portugal, you can go and raise your money in Switzerland or in the US. And everything is so connected right now. And the thing that inspires me most, that financial business follows this direction. So with cross-border payments in terms of blockchain, it actually opens such a huge horizon of what you can do and how agile you can be, you know, how many opportunities you can find all over the globe, that you don't have actually to stay in one place. So I think we are going to borderless communities, borderless finance, and borderless business opportunities, which actually amazing stuff, but also a very challenging one.
And so related to GeekPay, actually, which you've started, right? It's this idea of secure batch payments in tokens or stable coins to gig workers. Can you share a little bit about that? What inspired this company, and how does that fit in for this vision for borderless communities, borderless talent?
Yeah, gig economy is a kind of phenomenon that all economists and all business all over the world actually taken a look at it for about a decade, I think also. It's a kind of a thing and event that people became more independent in terms of being connected to one company. People strive to be independent in terms of their workload, I would say. So they strive to be more independent and also self-managed. And this is actually brought gig economy on top of all the surveys all over the globe. Like for the recent surveys that we've been watching to, following to, the overall volume of gig economy in the world should hit up to $500 billion. And it's a huge amount of money. People after COVID started moving from employee status into contractor-based status because it gives them more flexibility and more opportunity to live in different countries. And based on all of that, they also try to be more independent in terms of financial standard system, like banks or cards or whatever. So here digital currencies are coming into place because they are less, less limited in terms of using them all over the globe. With GeekPay, when we started building the company and the product itself, we understand this kind of problem because all our early adopter customers were working a lot with contractors all over the globe. So our clients mostly came from IT business, and IT business always looking for bright talent all over the globe. The engineers, project managers, and people who can actually create this code. This is always like lack of talent. That's why businesses and big brands go beyond. For instance, if the business located in the US, they go beyond US and looking for talented people all over the globe. And this is actually also pushes gig economy, because if you need to find like a bright talent in Solidity or a bright talent in Node.js, you have to find them all over the globe. And when we built and when we start building GeekPay, we understood that every single company, especially in tech, but also in other domains like logistics or marketing or creative space, they are contracting a lot of people all over the globe, and they are experienced with the huge limitations in terms of paying those contractors or sending money over the seas. And the first thing that they were looking for in terms of tools, how to pay those people, it was digital currencies. But since the space of blockchain payments is kind of young, they experience a lot of challenges, such as sending money on different chains and different wallets, then operations of all these wallets, and then money were sent to the wrong direction and people didn't get it. So a lot of different challenges. And here GeekPay came into place, and we tried to mitigate all the risk, all these problems. And then our customers start using us and then requesting more and more functionality. And that was a huge sign for us that this particular business area is growing, and we can build a nice platform that can actually help a lot of businesses all over the globe to manage that.
I'm curious what trends you're seeing, what types of talent, what regions are most open right now to being paid in stable coins and tokens, and why you think that might be. So for example, one thing I've observed in some DAOs or other communities is the talent not necessarily wanting to take on the currency risk of tokens, although maybe the DAO itself would prefer to pay out of their own native token. And so then this preference moving to stable coins, which even in this past year, we've seen depeg, right? So there is sort of this inherent risk.
Originally or organically, the first adopters of digital currencies are developing countries, just because they don't have such a sustainable financial system inside. I'm talking about Eastern European countries, or I'm talking about Latin American countries or African countries even. Because they don't have this legacy of financial systems strong and kind of in place things. That's why they're easily on board and also absorb all the new technologies connected with that. But also, if we take a look into the US, there is no any problem to buy stuff in USDC or in USDT. If you go for any e-commerce site, not any, of course, but the biggest part of them, if you go to a big brands even, you can easily choose during the checkout the opportunity to buy the stuff with USDC, with a MetaMask wallet or whatever. And for instance, Farfetch, a well-known product actually, which was born in Portugal, they also offer opportunity to buy stuff with digital currencies. And the thing is that if you want to do business, there is no any problem to accept money in digital currencies, because it's you can easily, if you have in place your centralized exchange account, you can go directly and change your money to fiat currencies if you need it, or you can spend it in terms of payments with digital currencies. So I think that the first early adopters are developing economies and the regions that I mentioned, but also well-developed economies like the US. I think it's also already in place, and I think people are more conservative, and the biggest part of people are still used to work on a conservative employment status, covering all the social stuff and other things. But with the trend of gig economy, I think we're again in the middle of the ocean. What's going to happen next? And especially with the CBDC projects, which is also very exciting stuff. And for instance, China has already released their CBDC project, which is actually operates already. And a couple of other countries started these projects. And I think the next 2024 is going to be a very exciting year for a lot of countries, in the world.
I'm curious, you mentioned that you anticipate that the adoption curve isn't like tens of years, it's actually months potentially. What makes you feel that? What's your intuition there?
Well, actually, such kind of news like a PayPal with either stable coins or a lot of news from big banks like Bank of America, Citi, JP Morgan, they all announced their focus on blockchain and all these crypto payments, which is also a huge sign for every business to think about it. Another stuff that a lot of legal setup are being announced right now. For instance, in European Union, they set up this MiCA legal setup, and it starts from the beginning of 2024. For instance, in Portugal, we are all waiting for the recommendations how to declare your crypto revenue. They also promised till the end of August to send the list of requirements how you can declare any revenues that you received in digital currencies. So the whole world is moving there, and in terms of legal part, but also in terms of infrastructure, in terms of like for those banks that people trust, they can also rely on their names. And this is kind of a thing that everything is moving there.
You mentioned CBDCs. Are there any other people, use cases, or companies that are really inspiring you right now that people listening could follow or read up on?
I'm very excited and very inspired by a couple of founders from Ukraine. And as investor, we invested in a couple of companies who recently moved their operations to other countries, and the environment that they have to keep going, and the environment and the overall things that they have to manage and they have challenges with, they keep growing their companies, they keep doing such an amazing stuff. And a couple of companies I can even mention, like Osomic, a very nice young company who provides services in design, which actually created Uber in design. And I'm extremely inspired by them, because even if they moved their whole team out of Ukraine during the war times, but they also opened their new awards in terms of design and any creative stuff that I'm just looking at them and say, oh my God, they're just unstoppable. And it's really inspiring that people can be so agile in such a hard times, especially in such hard times in the world with all these problems that we face with.
That's hugely inspiring. I can't wait to check them out and do some research. We'll link them in the transcript for sure. And any advice to somebody getting started, especially as an entrepreneur, and maybe even an entrepreneur thinking about moving their expertise into blockchain, especially with all the controversy, right, and the fear? What helped you take the leap, or what advice would you give?
Well, I'm in the process of creating a workshop, the real truth about startup life, which is not so pleasant, I would say. To say that startup and entrepreneurship is a kind of a very hard thing, because every single day you would never know how it's going to end, and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I would definitely inspire and say you should try it if you want to. With blockchain and crypto, I think it's an extremely interesting space right now, especially in everything like what is happening right now. And if you're still going to, I would suggest to start with the theoretical part, because blockchain technology is extremely hard thing, extremely complex stuff. And you have to be ready, because you have to know and you have to learn a lot, starting from technology point of view, but also of principles. How does it work? What kind of peculiarities you might face with that technology, and every blockchain differs from each other. And it's a kind of a challenge, but it is extremely interesting. I have never had the same day during my past 2 years. Like every single day is a new one with something new, which is extremely inspiring.
And how can we keep in touch? How can we follow you personally as a founder and this exciting course that you're about to launch? And then GeekPay, how can we watch as it evolves?
Well, we usually try to consolidate all the updates and information on our LinkedIn or Twitter accounts. But also it's like publication that we are going to have. A couple of our investors also sharing information about us. And also I hope that in the nearest future, our clients and customers who are using our platform are going to share also their experience, telling that we are the best product in their lives.
I love it. Okay, well, we will definitely be following along. And thank you for everything that you've shared, for the perseverance, for the innovation, and just your perspective on where this could all go. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun.
Thank you so much, Alana, for the opportunity. It's also a pleasure to talk to you, and extremely important for young startups like we are to have such kind of conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.